Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who's been waiting for me. Thank you to all of our members, subscribers, and viewers everywhere for this later than usual live stream. Thank you so much for your dedication and for still being with me. I hope everyone is doing well. And I wanted to talk to you about an interesting article actually in this live stream. For those of you who haven't watched my previous videos, I posted 2 videos earlier on. There's one coming up either later on tonight or midday tomorrow with latest updates from what's happening really. So for those of you who prefer the short updates, you can go ahead obviously to my video section. For those of you who prefer more kind of in-depth talk all around and obviously have some participation, then a live stream is for you. And again, welcome everyone, greeting all of the live chat and all of the regular members and subscribers and viewers and new subscribers as well. Welcome and thank you so much for your viewership and for your support as well. 1984 Sarajevo, I already have a super. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, nothing is toning down really. I mean, the Israeli barbarism in Gaza is increasing in the last couple of days. Today they killed 60 people. And their Western backers are, I don't know, what is it? Blindfolded, handcuffed by Zionism, what is it? Zipped lips, hypocrites. What else do you want to say? They killed 60 people today. 60 people as if it's nothing. You know, when people die in Gaza, as if they're numbers. To Western powers supporting, as if they're numbers, as if you're not talking even about animals. If a country was killing animals in certain parts of the world, you will hear the Western backers of Israel barking 24/7. If a cat breaks its paw in a country that they don't like, they'll call for a regime change the next day. But this barbaric, abhorrent, depraved state of Israel, backed by countries as abhorrent as it is, they can do whatever they want with nothing. No repercussions, you know. Collateral damage, you know, they have the right to defend themselves. But we find out that there are crimes being committed when, when Russia does something, we find out that there's something happening, and they're so loud. And you know what I thought today? I'm just sharing my thoughts with you here before I get into, some people ask, is it just because, the Gazans are, Arabs and Muslims and Middle Easterns and stuff, we've had a lot of Islamophobia and, Middle Easternophobia in the last 2 decades. Is it just because they're Muslim people? No. There's a big part. Yes, there is Islamophobia, there's hatred, there's racism. Of course there is a supremacy. Israel is a supremacist state. And by the way, Israel also has elements of white supremacy alongside this Jewish supremacy, ethnocracy, Jewish supremacy, and white supremacy too. But it's not just that. And why? Look at Russia and Ukraine, whites and Christians, right? Whites and Christian. Okay, you can have an argument that there are certain differences with, denominations or what have you, but they're white and they're Christian. So that's why when the war in Gaza began and, everyone was silent, most people, many people are silent this day. It was like, be careful, if you're justifying that, you're justifying against you. Don't think they won't come and justify crimes against you because you're of their race or, color or whatever. No, it can happen to you if it's relevant. And again, look at Europe, you know. They had all of these agreements, Europe, after World War II, to not have another world war. And now you have this US-led, US financially motivated, hegemony motivated, control motivated, proxy war in Ukraine to control Russia. They're paving the way for another world war. And obviously Gaza is exposing their hypocrisy and their double standards as well. So it's not just that. It isn't just that. I just want to share that with you. And what I want to talk to you about in this video, and Colette M, by the way, so thank you so much, and Daniela Modus Cutter, thank you for your super, and Stephen Burrows, thank you so much for your super. Stephen Burrows is saying the triangle now is banned in Germany. The West has no credibility. Of course, what credibility for what? Moral high ground? Thinking that you're enlightened? It doesn't work like that. Show me your actions. Don't talk and show me actions instead of talking. You remember the World Cup in Qatar 2 years ago? Moral high ground and imposing their view on certain things on the Qatar. Do you remember that? And all of the crowds over there were interested in was Palestine, right? It's interesting. But when you have actual things that need addressing, actual crimes against humanity, actual barbarism, they constantly fail. What does that tell you? Failed morals, moral depravity, hypocrisy, all garbage nonsense. And they're only interested in their own power and their economy, in the elite interest. They're careless about their own people even. They'll just brainwash their own people to do what they do so that they can keep their mouths shut and they can commit crimes against humanity across the world. This is what we have. What I want to talk to you about in this live stream, and then I'll open the space up for all of the community, is, you know, when this barbaric state, with this barbaric Western-backed state of Israel commits crimes, understand that these people are facing trouble. These people are facing trouble. To cover up, obviously, the failure, to cover up the military failure, to cover up the humiliation, they commit barbaric. But they will have certain people who know what's happening, and they will admit, including leading columnists in Israel, you know, including previous figures who had important positions in the country from a political perspective, or even the security establishment as well. But the article that I want to talk to you about was on Al Jazeera, based on a writer that had an article in an Israeli newspaper called Ben Dror Yemeni, saying that Sinwar achieved his goals and successfully playing chess against us. And this guy is right-wing as well, by the way. He said that the head of the Islamic resistance movements, Hamas in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, has achieved everything he wanted from the war and is running what he described as a chess game with amazing success against Israel. Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader in Gaza, is playing a chess game with amazing success against Israel, indicating that Israel must accept a settlement deal with the movement. The writer explained in an article published by Yediot Ahronoth that Sinwar wanted to re-raise the Palestinian issue internationally, delegitimize Israel's existence, thwart Saudi Arabia's normalization with Tel Aviv, and undermine US-Israeli relations, and achieved all of that. He said that as a result, Israel must accept a settlement deal with Hamas, otherwise it will deepen its failure. In light of it, the inability to achieve absolute victory and its declared goals from the war according to his expression. Speaking about the proposed deal, the Israeli writer said that Tel Aviv is dealing with two versions of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, explaining that the proposal presented by the US President Joe Biden at the end of last May includes a ceasefire based on Netanyahu's recommendations. He added that Netanyahu, however, publicly opposes a ceasefire for political purposes and is thus in conflict with himself, calling on the Israeli Prime Minister to accept the deal because the alternative is worse, as he described it. He added that the alternative to the deal is the continuation of the Israeli losses in the killing of soldiers and the inability of the displaced to return to their homes in the Gaza Strip and in northern Israel. I think he meant the areas surrounding Gaza Strip. In addition to the economic losses and the decline of the Israeli position internationally, he stressed that all tactical successes achieved by the Israeli army in Gaza quickly turn into a strategic success for Hamas, noting that there is no point in continuing the war and it must be ended by accepting the deal, even if it is bad, because it means a victory for Hamas, according to the writer. Even if it's bad, because it means a victory for Hamas, according to the writer. He's not the first one who's saying that, by the way. Listen to it from the horse's mouth. From the horse's mouth. Before anyone starts saying, what are you talking about? Israel is saying that, despite all of their destruction. Despite reports of progress in negotiations over the past few days, Netanyahu said last Sunday that Israel was committed during the deal talks to returning to fighting until all of the war's goals were achieved and preventing the return of what he described as militants to northern Gaza. They're still there, you ignorant imbecile. These people talk about they're still there. Who's targeting you in North Gaza? Who has been targeting you from day one up until now? Who? We won't allow the return of militants to northern Gaza. They're still there, you imbecile. These people live in La La Land and some idiots believe that. Hamas opposes the Israeli demand for the possibility of returning to fighting, demanding a permanent ceasefire, in addition to its demand for the return of the displaced in the northern Gaza Strip. They ended it there. And of course, Hamas, their main demands, they described ending the war completely, complete withdrawal, the return of the displaced, getting all aid in, and rebuilding Gaza, alongside the guarantees of the continuation of the ceasefire if they don't agree on the phases. That's, again, you have another Israeli right-winger, by the way, right-winger, this man, confirming all of that, not the first. Victory for Hamas, Israel must accept the deal, even if it's bad. And despite the fact that you have so many Israelis saying that, including people with right-wing views in Israel, Netanyahu doesn't want to swallow the pill. Netanyahu doesn't want to swallow the pill, and he doesn't want to swallow the pill because he obviously hasn't secured his day after yet. However, what he's doing effectively by continuing this is making it worse. He already had the security establishment telling him accept the deal. The negotiating delegation several times, by the way, from months ago, accept the deal, that led to the Israelis getting out in hundreds of thousands. Look, they agreed, take the deal. Then Hamas, take the deal. Previous prime ministers, accept the deal even if it's bad. The head of the Mossad, accept the deal. You don't accept the deal. What does all of that tell you? He's making things worse. If the core pillars of the Israeli establishment are telling you, core pillars of the Zionist Israeli establishment, by the way, are telling you, stop the bloody war, bite the bullet, and continue to save yourself. And this man is continuing. And they're saying, we have an existential war, and he's continuing, and he's making everything worse, despite the fact that it has an existential war. You have an existential war, end the bloody war and protect yourself, even if that means accepting a loss. But no, he's continuing. And they're escalating now with Lebanon. As if, it doesn't matter what they do, they want to keen on hastening their demise, right? They killed this man who was the ex-bodyguard of Nasrallah in Syria. He was in charge of passing arms from Syria to Lebanon. Again, going and attacking a sovereign country. Where's the condemnation? Where is Israel is acting in a reckless manner? Right? You don't find that. You don't see that. And this is what I want to talk to you about. Let me open the space up for you in the community. And again, thanks for 1984 Sarajevo, Colette M, Daniela Modus Cutter, Stephen Burrows, Lutfi Shhadi, Silvestra Pejakic. Thank you so much for your supers, much appreciated. And welcome everyone. Welcome to all of our members and subscribers and viewers everywhere. If anyone has anything, obviously, if you wouldn't mind just highlighting it for me, so I can address it and not miss it, because we're in the live chat. Let's have a look. Uncanny Mountain, the way to capitalize on the fall of Israel and Zionism is to demand an end to parties and politicians and using technology for direct democracy by the people using a national digital forum. Nice idea, nice idea. If you can obviously elaborate further on that, I'm sure, something might work, with direct democracy, because sure as hell you don't have direct democracy. You have the democracy of Rupert Murdoch. That's what you have, the Rupert Murdoch democracy. Whoever this man decides, he'll bring him up in the mainstream media. The sheep and the herds will listen, and they'll look at the headlines and believe that this person is good or credible, or this person is bad or anti-Semitic or da-da-da-da-da. He'll take people up and bring people down, alongside obviously the big bucks, primarily in the US. But yeah, the direct democracy. But then you also need to address the media issue and the interference too. But I think what's happening is, instigating a debate as to democracy itself. What is democracy? Are we living in democracy, or are we living in a facade where people can talk sometimes, to an extent, by the way, because there are barriers clearly. We stretch them to the max as much as possible because we're entitled and it's our right. But to some people, they wouldn't even test the waters, by the way. And any good functioning democracy would encourage testing its democratic borders, by the way. Because if you don't test the democratic borders, they constantly go at you, by the way. Why? Because the government doesn't like democracy. The government likes to do things without criticism. It likes people who are afraid and seek refuge in the government, right? That's it. Although they're killers, by the way, in many cases, and implement policies that starve them to death and annihilate the living daylight out of them economically and socially and what have you, and education-wise, and corruption. And there is a debate to be made. There is a debate to be made. Azra and Infinite Content, thank you so much for your supers. Infinite Content saying, so you go to fight Hamas, Hezbollah, Galilee is seceding, and the ultra-Orthodox are rebelling. You can't win a war with 2/5 columns, Mahmoud. Look, they know. Right? At least some people know. But the people who are making the decisions are delusional, are high. Do you know what I mean? They're high on racism and supremacy and arrogance and years of Western enablement and support. They think they can get their way with everything, so they continue. Let them continue. Let's see where you want to reach. You had 10 months of all-out destruction. Now, in Gaza? What have you achieved? See, that's the thing, you know. We're observing this from the beginning. What have you achieved? Tell me, Israel-wise. If they achieved something, I'll tell you. We're seeing what are they achieving? Destruction, slaughtering civilians. But against the resistance, their global image, prospects for peace or a long-lasting solution to get rid of any potential of resistance, because you would have some sort of inequality or right, some sort of compromise. No, 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 and no. No, 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 no. They continue down the arrogant, supremacist, violent, barbaric path, no self-reflection, enabled by the West. The Arab coward states are silent, also enabling them too. But now you have some people who are not afraid and getting stronger, creating a new equation, including with the United States, by the way. It's not just with Israel. The world is changing, by the way. It's not just Palestine. But the moment things do change for the better in that land, things will be better for the whole world. This country is a cancer. This apartheid system that exists in Palestine is the worst type of cancer you can imagine. And some people are trying to protect the cancer, telling, no, cancer is good, it's fine. Uncanny Mountains all saying the vast majority of Israel's leadership is Ukrainian, Polish, Austro-Hungarian, the Khazarian area, the Khazarian region historically. Previous Russian Empire, Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, all the main lead, Khazaria. Fadi Awad, what does the election to France mean for the Palestinian cause? Let me tell you something. I don't think the Palestinian people are waiting for any elections, but any elections for everyone across the world. It's not like the people of Gaza have faith in, they have faith in the people who show support with them, but not in politics. The international law let them down. International enlightened Western democracies who bang on about human rights and they let them down. What the only people who supported them are every single individual human being with an ounce of decency that does something, you know, writes a comment, a post, shares something, goes out to protest, whatever it is, right? This is very, very important. And obviously from on the ground, the resistance fronts acting with all bravery, demolishing everything, all of the barriers of fear, all of the paper tigers, everything. But in France, clearly, there's something changing. And don't forget that, by the way, it shows a big split. You still have a massive numbers with ultra right-wing views, and you still have people supporting Macron. And you'd have a hung parliament unless you have, obviously, some sort of a coalition. But it surprised lots of people. Many observers are calling it historic, or the most historic in French history. It shows how much unity is important when you feel like there's a mutual risk or threat to your democracy or country from sinking into fascism, by the way. And Europe is sinking into fascism, you know. We have all of the elements ready to go into fascism. And the good sign is some of these groups in this left coalition have shown an extremely strong stance for Palestine. And as a Palestinian, as a human being, show me your moral compass when it comes to Palestine. That's number one. If you fail with that, you fail altogether in my eyes. I don't care what you say in terms of internal policy, foreign policy, I don't care about any of that. Fake populism, I don't care about any of that. Tell me what you think about people facing genocide. That's number one. Do you support the people or do you support their? If you support them, shut up about everything else. I don't care. You're invalid. And at least some of these people, they had a strong stance from the beginning. But again, it shows you how divided Europe is nowadays. You know, there's a big divisions in Europe. Stephen Boros, I read somewhere that Hizb might be in the West Bank within weeks of a war with Israel. Do you think this is possible? Sleeping cells, maybe, you know. Who knows? Who knows? They might have things planned. You know, Israel talks a lot about Iranian intervention in the West Bank. But the fact of the matter is the West Bank and what the people do is stemming from the pain and the horror and continued aggression that these people face, similarly with Gaza. And the resistance in Lebanon exists because of Israel. That's why. You know, let's remember that. But they might have something. They might have something prepared. Paul Ambrose, Mahmoud, great show. Thank you so much, my friend. Even after the truth we have seen, the US continues to support Israel. What will change their position? 500,000 dead? No, the United States killed 1 million in Iraq, 1 million in Afghanistan. They killed millions in Vietnam. They killed 250,000 in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, tens of millions. What are we talking about? The US doesn't care. They view what Israel's doing as pathetic, as peanuts. You know what I mean? If Israel is a small 7-Eleven committing a genocide, the US is the biggest Walmart in history in terms of genocide, including everyone else silent. That's why we call them the genocide cartel. What will change the position of the US and what will change the position of Israel is, number one, the success of the Palestinian resistance and the resistance fronts. Why? Because these people prove time after time that they only understand the language of force. Only force. This is what they proved. How did Israel withdraw out of Sinai? Force, war. How did they withdraw from Gaza? War, resistance. How did they withdraw from South Lebanon? War, resistance. How did the US withdraw from Afghanistan? Blow after blow from the Taliban. How did they withdraw most of their forces from Iraq? Resistance. You know, and not people asking them, oh, hello, occupier, can you please treat me nicely? They went with genocide. They faced resistance, as any normal situation should be like. Negative effect, karma. You hit, you get hit back. Punch, counter punch. This is the world, right? So what will change things and what is changing things is the strength of the resistance fronts in the region. You know, people have been talking to them. People have been choosing only a diplomatic path. Look at Palestine. Look at the Palestinian president in the West Bank. Only diplomacy or peaceful resistance, you know, calling for them, you know, calling, condemning, asking. You know, we ask. Do you think these people care for any beggars like you? They don't have any respect for beggars. They loathe you. They have respect for people who stick up to their rights with all bravery. That's who they have respect for. Not beggars, let alone little puppets or agents. And that's changing. That's changing. And with that, you will create a new equation where people treat each other, nations, countries, on a similar level. Not, oh, I'm going to make peace with you when I am defenseless. You have peace with someone who understands that you have force to hit them back if they dare to hit you. This is how you have sustainable peace. You don't have peace when you have a case like Palestine, when you have country enabled so much by the West with every genocide, war, crime aspect they can ask for, against people who barely have nothing. And even with that, we're seeing this equation change. Marvin Vergas question, you hear the Meta banning the use of the word Zionism? Of course, because it's anti-Semitic. I haven't heard of that, but I'm not sure that them lifting off the word martyr the other day in Arabic was a cover-up to do that. I wouldn't surprise me, because what I did hear is that Meta The same company, by the way, that lifted off restrictions on Russophobia when the Russian-Ukraine war started. By the way, did you know that? They lifted restrictions on people calling for the death of Russian people. Not Putin or the government or whatever. Russian people. They started enabling Russian hate and everything with the Russian people. And after 2-3 years of banning or shadow banning the word martyr in Arabic, shaheed, right? Oh, they released a statement the other day. Oh, it can be used in a manner that, doesn't glorify, terrorism or anything bad. This is normal garbage. But if they did this now, then that could have probably been a cover-up for this. And we know Meta, we know these social media platforms in general, right? There is no doubt that there is an agenda behind it. There is no doubt that there is an agenda behind it. And listen, I'm talking to you here, right? We're talking about it shouldn't be a sensitive subject, but to some people or platforms, it's a sensitive topic. There's nothing should be sensitive about it. It's blatant as the sun. I am pro having respect, not having hateful content, not having racism, not attacking people based on the religion and all of that. I am pro that. That's why I even have guidelines on my comment section for people to be respectful and not use swear words and what have you. Because you can bring your opinion across without all of that. Well, as a matter of fact, your opinion can be stronger without swearing and, unlike the other side, by the way, the other side immediately they'll go on the religious side and the Arabs and the Islam So despite all of that, they definitely have an agenda. And that's been evident from many things that many people face, including here. Zach, have you seen the episode 2 of Hudhud video over the Golan Heights today? Yes, and I spoke about it briefly in my previous video, and Hezbollah will clearly, in my opinion, have more to release. And so far, they're only covering the north, by the way. You don't know where else they've reached. And all of this talk about the north, by the way, could be deception. Because Hezbollah can cover everything. Why are you just talking about the north? There's more than enough strategic places in the north, by the way. But they have everything to cover everything in Israel. So yes, and I hope that covers it from Muna Nana as well. Lindsay, thank you for your super. You said thank you for all the research and thoughtful insight that goes into each video you make. I watch them all. Thank you so much, Lindsay. I really appreciate that. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. And Free Palestine too. You said the West, led by the Americans, believe they've been entrusted by God to decide the fate of other people. The US prefers not to be guided by the international law, but by the rule of the gun. Putin, did he say that? Wow, that's a good statement from Putin. And now listen, 1 second later, people start telling me, oh, you support Putin, he supports Putin. Wait. Because I said he made a good comment. And Alan Marwin, thank you so much for your super as well. You said, have you seen the Lancet report? I've always thought the casualty counts was far too low. Yes, I have, and I spoke about it yesterday. Look, 186,000 people killed in Gaza, in my humble opinion, I think is an exaggerated number. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Palestinian Authority in Gaza has no interest in underplaying how many people were killed. If more people were killed in Gaza, that would show Israel in a more negative manner. Why should they hide it? That's number one. Number two, although they face a lot of restrictions, they're doing a pretty damn good job in trying to maintain things afloat from the civil side. So the health ministry in Gaza, they will count the deaths of verified deaths. They know almost for certain that there are 8,000 more people killed because they're missing and there are many people under the rubble, and Israel had many mass graves. They know all of that, but they won't declare them dead. Why? Because of their integrity, because they need to verify everything, DNA, check, where, what, name, whatever it is. So they don't. Now, 186,000, you could be talking about, like, in a couple of years' time, the total number of people killed and then found and then died due to malnutrition and died due to lack of medication, and whatever it is, it could reach, I don't know, 100,000 or whatever it is. And we pray that it stops today and the suffering and misery end today before tomorrow. But I personally disagree with that report. I disagree with it. I don't see that that many people were killed so far. And again, you know, the world, I think it was WHO and another organization, they also said that the numbers of the health ministry in Gaza are verified as well, because you still have some UN activity over there. And they have no interest in hiding it. As a matter of fact, people are accusing the health ministry of Gaza, the Hamas-run health ministry, they'll tell you, right? Of pumping up the numbers. They're accusing them of that, to a level where in the US, they wanted to ban quoting, and we spoke about that the other day, ban quoting the death toll in Gaza. Imagine that. Imagine how democratic. So that's my opinion on that. And again, thank you so much for your super. Muhammad, salam, brother. Why has the resistance not been able to target helicopters coming to the rescue crews? Because they'll throw a SAM-7 on them, and the helicopter will fire these fireballs to take the missile off it. And we had instances where they were close. But again, you know, this SAM-7 is very old. It's not the most effective thing on Earth. And the air defense capabilities of Gaza is weak, very weak. I mean, obviously they do whatever they can, you know. The fact that they have a couple of things is, you know, is impressive, but not like Hezbollah, for example, who took down several Hermes 900s, the most expensive and largest Israeli UAV, alongside 7 more. And they forced an F-16 to go back. So there's a big difference between Gaza and Lebanon with that. Kate, will Palestinians or Hamas demand that they will be the ones controlling Rafah crossing and not the Israeli settlers or UN? Interesting question. And so far from the announcements that we heard from the Hamas side, not the Palestinian Authority side, they would wish the PA, well led by Abu Mazen in the West Bank. They said that yes, they would need to control it. And any agreement needs to be with the people of Gaza, which is the correct thing. Now, you have a Palestinian side, again, playing against that will. The Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, led by Mahmoud Abbas. So primarily, and it's a clique of people, by the way, so don't think it's all of the West Bank or even all of the Palestinian Authority, by the way. It's a clique of people within the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, led by Mahmoud Abbas and Majid Faraj, his intelligence leader, right, over there, who is the main candidate to replace him, by the way, who already had certain attempts to take in forces in Gaza. Remember this force that I spoke about a few months ago that Hamas took down? They imprisoned them. They came disguised as the Egyptian Red Crescent, right? I don't know how they managed to pull that off. I'm not sure if Egypt knew or didn't know. How did that happen? And they smuggled themselves in Gaza to try and, yes, you need to understand how they want to do it. They would go in through the Rafah as if, to distribute the aid. And that will slowly expand to reach civil authority. This is what Israel wants, because they can't obviously do it blatantly, but they've been talking about replacing the authority in Gaza. How do they do it? Through the aid. Who's going to monitor the aid? Who's going to deal with the aid? Who's going to do that with it? Hamas knows all of that. They've dealt with that before. And what do you think Israel can fool them with that? That's why they told them anything goes in Gaza, ruled by the people of Gaza, simple. So they refused so far. Will there be an arrangement that can be agreed upon that would include UN elements and Hamas, for example? Maybe, because we had, obviously the UNRWA was active there all the time. And they were distributing so much of it. So I don't think they would agree to Israel, for example, that's for sure. Some UN participation maybe, but again, it has to be under the will and with the will of the Palestinian people in Gaza. This is the main thing. This is the main thing. All of this talk, or the day after, people imposing their will on other people, arrogant, and they think they have the moral high ground, right? Israel, its Western backers, some Arab states too, to talk about the day after in Gaza. Who are you? Who on earth are you? And plus, do you support democracy or not? What does democracy mean? Gaza, you have a democratically elected government, monitored by none other than Jimmy Carter, who said this was the most transparent democratic election in the Arab world in history. Jimmy Carter, previous US president. He was in Gaza and he met with Hamas and he met with the Palestinian Authority. And he even had criticism to the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank at the time. That's democracy, but they don't like democracy when democracy brings someone they don't like. Someone who stands for their rights. Someone who isn't willing to kneel down. Someone who's not a bootlicker. Someone who's not a puppet. They don't like that. They would prefer dictatorship, authoritarianism, genocide, crimes against humanity, and they will justify it and sugarcoat it with any garbage that they can do. That's what you see. Marvin Vergus, what do you think Bibi will get when he comes on the 24th to the US? I think the American people will be protesting. There are so many brave American people who are standing up against their government and this genocide. There are so many dedicated people who don't leave any official coming from this genocidal state, including their own leaders. Blinken, how many protests had his own? Biden, everyone. He will be met with some protests in the US. Like Gallant, when he went there, he was followed up to the doorsteps with, I think, Code Pink activists. I think they were. Fight back. More than 1 million people protested against the invasion of Iraq, and it did not stop the UK to join the USA in the invasion. We are not doing things right. We, the population, and now they are talking draft. Yeah, talking draft to use you as cannon fodder for wars that greedy, corrupt, vile, evil people will benefit from. Like the vile Tony Blair dealt with all. And again, look at the pattern. Tony Blair, Rupert Murdoch, like this. He, paved the way for him to get in. There was a plan to invade Iraq. Came in, New Labour, acting like, like this fool now, Starmer. They went to Iraq where hundreds of thousands, a million protesting in the streets. Don't listen. Why? You chose him. Elected dictatorship. That's not democracy. That's elected dictatorship. And the millions in the United States. Elected dictatorship. Once you elect them, you shut up and they can do whatever they want to do. Shut up in terms of actions, by the way. You can talk and you can criticize and you can, ridicule them and make fun and whatever. Who cares? They don't care. To them, they're in power. They have the democratic vote of the people and they can do whatever the hell they want to do. Like even Brexit, they fooled the people. People fell for it. Stupidity. And they realized the devastating results afterwards. All of a sudden, oh my God, no, we made a mistake. 3.3 million people, they have this, what's it called? Signature for the parliament thing, right? Petition. Who cares? Do you think the government cares? No, you voted. Referendum, that's it. Now be quiet. Referendum when they want, for their own interest. They will spin everything to convince you that they're good and whatever. The herds obviously will follow, like, that. A couple of people will question, but then when it actually happens and they realize the devastating mistake, they will rise up. But too late, my friend. You're fooled. This is how it works. And again, is that democracy? Is that power to the people? No, it's not. It's elected dictatorship. The Regal Woman, thank you so much for your super, much appreciated. You said, rich Zionists launder American taxpayer money through the diaper force and their wars. Alhamdulillah, we are witnessing the end of the evil project. Free Palestine from these predators. To a large extent, yeah, they launder money. I mean, it's all a scam. Listen, how does some people don't know how foreign aid works, by the way, this aid for Israel or aid for other countries, the money is in the US. It just goes from your pocket to the military industrial complex and the filthy, greedy criminal pockets. That's what happens. It's not like they send them the money and then you go do whatever you want with the money. No. This money is conditional. You purchase American weapons. From who? We will tell you who. What is that? That's theft from the people to the pockets of people who make money out of blood. This is how it works, and it's been working for a very long time. It's a scam. And look at the lobby. Look at how much the Zionist lobby spends money in the US. Blatantly too. It's not like, and they spend some money here in the UK too. But in the US, it's so blatant, right? And they can still do it. But if someone does something, oh, you're working for the Communist Party of China. He's working for the Communist Party of China. Working for the Communist Party for China when you have a lobby that's spread throughout the whole country and buys your politicians and presidents in broad daylight. Talk about undermining democracy. Talk about lack of sovereignty. Gaza Awareness is asking, Carter said that, yes, look into Jimmy Carter and his institution and the elections. in Gaza in 2006. He had a very big interest in those elections. He was actually looking to push for a solution at the time. And yeah, he said that. Kate, his bodyguard was targeted by Israel. Is that close to home? Will Hezbollah go all out instead of playing and flying drones? Yeah, listen, I mean, I know you put it in, flying drones. I mean, it's more than that. What's happening between Hezbollah and Israel is more than just playing, really. It's serious stuff, but it's not an all-out war, yeah. And the man, he previously was the bodyguard of the Secretary General of Hezbollah, and he was now in charge of relations and passing weapons from Syria to Lebanon. They obviously retaliated. There was a big attack on the Golan Heights. Israelis were killed. At least two. Israel admitted two of them. But would we see something bigger only from Hezbollah? We'll see. I mean, it's really tense. From the pattern that we've seen so far, I don't think that would push them to go on an all-out war. But what we're seeing in the last couple of days is escalation after escalation. Escalation after escalation, and you really don't know when things will totally get out of control. Israel is still reckless, enabled by Western powers to commit all of these atrocities and this recklessness in the region. And anything can get it out of control. Silvestra Pejakic heard today that 11 Algerian doctors enter through Rafah border into Gaza just like that. What's your thoughts about that? And thank you for your amazing work from Croatia. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And greetings to everyone from Croatia. Yeah, they would. And many people will go from many countries. We had people from many parts of Europe, Western countries. We had Arab doctors from the Gulf. Lots of people go. They obviously need to go through the authorization process, which could take time, but that's not surprising. That's not surprising because many people want to go and volunteer. And obviously they need a lot more equipment as well too. They're facing big problems. Israel wholly destroyed most hospitals in Gaza, by the way. And again, no condemnation, no nothing, Hamas are hiding there, they'll tell you. Colette M. Mahmoud, do you think Israel can stop the genocide on its own will? Aren't they addicted to murder, having control over the Palestinian lives, even if it means the end of Israel? Can Palestinians survive this? I think you described it very well, that they're addicted to murder and in having control over Palestinian lives. They like playing God. They believe they're God's chosen people and they can choose who lives and dies. They can make fun out of killing people. They have a lot of bloodlust. It's a sick nation in general, the majority, sick nation, based on depravity, indoctrination, filled with hate from the get-go, with the education system, with everything. So yeah, they're addicted, and now their addiction is slowly killing them. And can the Palestinians survive this? Absolutely, 100%. With the help of God, they will survive this. And Amanda and everyone else, thank you so much for your kind input. Let's see if we have anything else before we wrap up. Marvin, how many hospitals in the West Bank are they still operating? Has IDF destroyed any schools, universities in the West Bank? Are there still civil services still operating in the West Bank? It has a lot of hospitals. To be fair, I'm not sure entirely about the number itself. The main destruction is in an area near Tulkarem, parts of Tulkarem, parts of Jenin. There's a lot of destruction over there, and Israel used the biggest type of force it has for the past 20 years now in the West Bank, nowhere near the level of destruction in Gaza. But there are people who are threatening it, like Smotrich threatened the West Bank with the fate of Gaza. We will make these places like Gaza, calling for more destruction. And again, these reckless people are in power, sick people following terrorist ideologies, supremacist, in power and implementing a genocide enabled by Western powers. Rotten Mouse, do we even have respect for the word terrorist here? Or do you think oppressed always have the right to fight their oppressors? I'm more inclined to think terrorism is a scare word. You're right, terrorism is definitely a scare word, because the great grandfathers of terrorism use it against weaker people who resist them. So they will commit terror on a global scale, mass scale terrorism, under the banner of, promoting democracy and human rights against these barbaric, uncivilized people. And then if anyone, defends himself, oh, terrorist. And in many cases, they will create terrorism, by the way. Don't forget that. And don't forget their collaboration with terrorism and terrorist organizations and what have you. Real terrorist organizations, not like resistance movements or what have you. Don't forget what the United States did in Latin America, bringing terrorists to power, bringing warlords to power, bringing criminals to power. Don't forget that. They are like this with authoritarian regimes who brutalize their nations all across the world. And they despise democracy whenever democracy doesn't work in their favor. And terrorism is a scare word, of course. Plus, who's using it? That's the thing. Who's using it? A genocidal maniac is using the word terrorist? What do you mean? You're committing genocide across the world and telling me there are terrorists, but you operate at a state level terrorism, right? And genocide and enslavement, and telling me that there are other people who are terrorists? It's all nonsense, garbage. To psychologically control people, right? Brainwash them and instill fear in them. And many people are like herds, they'll follow. But anyone who kind of reads between the lines slightly, hold on a second, what are we saying here? What are we doing? You will realize it's clear as daylight. 1984 Sarajevo, thank you for your super. He said, Melanchon said that the oligarchic system was trying to manipulate democratic elections around the world and install little Macrons all over. We are all equal under heaven, free Palestine. Look, it's already happening. Doesn't money control Western countries? You already have money controlling the United States, money controlling England, money controlling many European countries. Money controls them. And when we say money buying media, money buying the politician, money buying power, buying influence, buying presidency, buying prime ministers, buying ministers. It's already there. What are we talking about? They're not trying to do it. You know what I mean? And that's the dangerous part. Money already owns politics. It has owned it for a very long time, and that's what should change. So, and they go and criticize like countries like Russia, right? The oligarchs, and they're supporting the. Look at your country. Look at your country. You have presidents and campaigns receiving hundreds of billions, hundreds of millions from people and companies. What is that money for? Charity? What do you think these people who have money would happily get rid of 100 million like that? Or would they want something in return? This is investment for them. Investment for what? Influence over what? And to gain what? Right? And it's been happening for a very long time. And Anwar Abu Bakr, thank you so much for your super. You're also saying about the Lancet as well, about 186,000. I also, if you go back to the initial part of the video, I shared my thoughts on that as well. And thank you for your super. Kate with Ben Gvir making threats makes me think this bombing on the northern death of the soldiers have little or no impact. What's your take? Listen, Ben Gvir is a barking dog who likes to talk a lot, to appear popular for his base. When it comes to certain actions, he'll go with his tail between his legs, like how he did when he released the Dr. Muhammad Abu Salmiya. Obviously, it was a shame. It was a shameful thing for him to be imprisoned as well. A doctor, a hospital manager. Imagine how vile these people are, and how vile their supporters are. Imprisoning Al Shifa Hospital's manager, Dr. Muhammad Abu Salmiya, who was considered in Israel one of the most dangerous people. Like, okay, they released him, and then he said, "Oh no, I was intimidated. I had to release him." You know, all talk, and they have no view, they have no strategic view, they have no political view whatsoever. They are just drunk and high with racism and supremacy and ugliness, and they're enabled. Irene Z. Haaretz had a title, Is God Anti-Semite? Shows their God complex. No, God, to them, God serves them. God is an estate agent. He promised us of the land. He chose us, right? God serves them. It's not the opposite way. So they control God, astaghfirullah, to them. This is how they view it. And he's an estate agent. He tells them, oh, you have the land. That's it. What God? What are we talking about? The people who established Zionism are atheists. Herzl, Ben Gurion, Netanyahu himself is an atheist. But they believe in God's promise. They believe in God's promise. God serves them in that sense. They are God. Kyle Lynch, what is the biggest misconception about the Palestinian resistance? Everything that Western mainstream media tells you, misconception. Every single word on Western mainstream media, on media opposing them, is misconception. If you want to know the reality of these people, read about their history from diversified sources, not just from one source. Look through the conditions that they were brought up upon, who established them, when. You need to read all of that from multiple sources to establish that. But everything on Western mainstream media, misconception, lies, manipulation. Never trust them. These people will tell you that the devil is good and try and convince you. Uncanny Mountain is saying 80% of American Jews don't support Zionism. I'm not sure about the number, but there's definitely a big number that's growing. I mean, I spoke to many of them. I already knew many, obviously, Jews who oppose Zionism from the beginning. Many, even Israelis who oppose Zionism. As in, not many in the grand scheme of things. I know some people. And in the United States, if you talk about people in the Jewish community and in other countries as well, there's a lot of debate because there was support in many Jewish communities for Israel. Many of them fell into the trap of Zionism and were brainwashed, traditionally, although many traditionally always resisted them, by the way. And you had many from multiple backgrounds in the Jewish community opposing them before, but now the debate is global and whatever. So how many? Now, in terms of percentage, I really don't know, but all I know is that the number is growing. If you have a level where only Jewish people will be taking action in the US, or only Jewish parts and encampments and whatever, you see, that's the thing. They are doing that deliberately also to debunk this whole anti-Jewish nonsense that's going on, or what they label anti-Semitism in mainstream media. And it's good, but the numbers are growing. I mean, you need to have a proper poll really to understand how many support. But again, I don't think that's something that should be focused on too much, in my opinion. I don't think any community should be blamed for what a country does, regardless of who they do it in the name of. So I don't think anything should be directed at any Jewish community when it comes to Israel, by the way. Even if you have some communities supporting them and some communities oppose them, why do that? No, don't link them. The linking part is very negative, is very bad. It's as if you want to link any other community with the actions of another Christian nation or a Muslim nation. No, that's not something that's wrong. You should never do that. Any community should feel safe regardless. You're talking about a country. Talk in the name of whatever you want to talk. Judaism, communism, although I oppose that. But they're doing that. And they're crying about anti-Semitism, by the way. It's like, hello, look at what you're doing, right? You're just talking in the name of Judaism, committing a genocide. But again, I don't think they should be linked whatsoever. And to understand the percentage, I think you need to have an independent kind of global poll. But again, how relevant it is. Like, if a poll will come and say, for example, 50% of the Jewish people or whatever support Israel, 50%, what is that going to really do? Am I going to start kind of thinking, oh, hold on a second, is that community support them or not? Or am I going to, have different views on them because of that? It's not going to do much, but I think an independent poll would only tell you. And regardless, Israel, they talk in the name of Judaism. Many people in the Jewish community, whether religious or secular, oppose that. They think it's something very bad for the image of Judaism. I think that as well. And are there Jewish people who support them? Yes. Are there Jewish people who oppose them? No. Are there Christian people who support them? Yes. Are there Christian people who oppose them? No. Likewise with Muslims, likewise with other faiths or, people who have no faith. So, yeah, I think it should be separated. A Muslim question, is it 50-50 they go into Lebanon or more like 80-20? It's really a difficult question because, you don't want to anticipate, as in give an opinion on something when there's so many things going on around it. I mean, if you ask me, 60% chance yes, 40% chance no. And I'd give a 40% chance no because there is a big likelihood that they won't go. There are many, many reasons. And I'd give a 60% chance yes, as in the majority, the bigger chance is because based on the recent actions, they have proven, Israel has proven, led by Netanyahu, that they don't act based on their own interests. So I think that it's more likely that they do than they won't. But there's a big chance that they won't. And thank you for that. Anwar Abu Bakr, thank you for your super. You said you're an American Palestinian wondering to adopt a child from Gaza. Is that possible? A Muslim with a wife and children with a good home. That's something to explore, obviously. And I mean, if you want to explore that, you would need to check it with the relevant bodies, obviously. And there's going to be several buttons to click here, starting from the US, laws around adoption, criteria that needs to be met. Then the authorities in Egypt, and then the authorities in Gaza, or the organizations in Gaza. Kate, report shows 2 million Israeli Jews left for Europe. They hold European passports, so they claim they will never return. When they have free mortgage, free medical Israel, they will return. More than 2 million, in my opinion. And unless you mean 2 million only due to the war, because 1.2 million, excluding their descendants, were already out before the 7th of October, not due to the war. And we already had a wave of Israelis leaving Israel due to the judicial reform. So I'd say altogether over 3 million, at least. Yeah, most of them will never return. And why should they return? Why would you... Listen, any person with common sense, why would you want to raise your children in a toxic nation that has so much racism and ugliness, and everything is so toxic and violent and increasingly getting worse? Why would you want to do that? And they're not taking any step that brings hope, that brings people closer together. Any sort of glimpse of hope the government doesn't bring. Whenever there's one move to the right direction politically, you will come with a wave of people who capitalize on it and infuse even more racism to one of the most racist societies on earth. It's ugliness. And obviously to them, they realize, these people, the lie of the safe haven for Jewish people. More like the safe hell for Jewish people. Zionism has done the worst things in the name of Judaism. Anything bad to be labeled against Jewish people, anything bad that people use for this anti-Jewish sentiment, something which is really bad. Look at Israel. Look at them committing crimes against humanity in the name of Judaism, getting people in power who have the most abhorrent views on earth, moral depravity, right? In the name of Judaism. Why? Who wants to be with these people? Who wants to be controlled by these people? And it looks like that was the last one. One more from Teshikoma. Their news about Israel is burning their military bases. Well, we had a couple of things that I spoke about before. There was nothing published yet, but mind you, there's a lot of censorship in Israel. There's a lot of military censorship when it comes to the news. Like last night, for example, there was a military censorship order on 4 events with mass casualties in Gaza. So what happened? How many people were killed? So if there's censorship on actions that the public have a very big interest in, the war, the genocide, imagine the censorship with other stuff internally. Like when this Israeli burnt this base and threw a grenade on it in Tal HaShomer, you couldn't hide it. One of them, he threw a grenade, and another time it was burning. It's like you can't hide it, like people are taking pictures. Whereas in Gaza, in certain locations, unless the resistance publishes stuff, you can hide it to an extent. So there is a lot of censorship, draconian laws, by the way, as well in Israel. The denial of the 7th of October law, the terror content law. If you watch content that's labeled as terror by someone in the government, then you can be imprisoned for over a year. And that information could also include things that deny the official narrative about the 7th of October, although you get released from Israel, the information debunking, right? That's the state that they're in. Miss Cheeky 007, thank you so much for your super. And we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for joining me again for another live stream. Much appreciation to all of you, all of the members, subscribers, and viewers for all of your time and continued support and dedication. Special thanks to everyone who sent supers: 1984, Sarajevo, Colette M, Daniela Modus Cutter, Stephen Burrows, Lutfi Shhadi, Silvestra Pejakic, Azra, Infinite Content, Lindsay, Alan Marwin, Free Palestine, The Regal Woman, 1984, Sarajevo, thank you again, my friend. Anwar Abu Bakr, thank you so much. And Miss Chiki, thank you so much, much appreciated. I really appreciate your support. Apart from that, stay blessed, everyone. I wish you a lovely week ahead. I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow. If you wanted to watch a couple of the other clips that I posted, go ahead and watch them. And again, thank you so much. Stay blessed, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Take care, everyone, and peace be on all of you.